The world of football constantly marvels at the exceptional skill and relentless ambition of Real Madrid's elite. These are athletes of transcendental quality, yet beneath the veneer of gilded trophies and global acclaim, every single one of them harbours a core deficiency, a catastrophic internal friction point that repeatedly threatens to derail their own majestic careers. We are not here to question their talent, but to deconstruct the fatal character traits that define their biggest problems. We begin with the defining figure of his generation, Kylian Mbappé. From the moment he erupted onto the scene at 17, tearing apart defences and guiding Monaco to a Champions League semi-final, his destiny as the world's best was sealed. But this sudden, overwhelming success created an all-consuming drive for control. The subsequent move to PSG was intended to be a marriage of convenience and ambition, yet Mbappé immediately asserted himself as the singular star, a demand that metastasized into outright toxicity within the dressing room. Tensions quickly escalated from mere professional rivalry to disputes over penalty duties, with established figures like Cavani and Neymar fundamentally disrupting the hierarchy of the club. Mbappé's desire for the spotlight was so absolute that it often superseded the needs of the collective. Review the footage. The instances of him overlooking teammates in superior scoring positions are not random occurrences. They are tangible evidence of a prioritization of personal glory over team efficiency. Why did this destructive pattern continue unchecked? Because he had been crowned the golden boy, the national hero who carried France on his back, and crucially, because PSG, desperate need to retain him, rendered him untouchable. As his contract neared its 2022 expiration, the club effectively abdicated all authority, granting him what can only be described as quasi-owner privileges, a staggering euros 72 million annual salary, a euros 150 million signing bonus, and loyalty bonuses. That escalated year after year. This unprecedented contractual structure made it clear. Mbappé was the law. Even after his eventual transition to Real Madrid, this inherent selfishness persists, evident in compiled clips showing moments where he chooses a challenging, glory-seeking shot over a simple, guaranteed assist. The talent is generational, but the need for absolute control acts as a self-imposed ceiling on his effectiveness as a team player. A similar, yet distinct, personal flaw plagues another icon, Cristiano Ronaldo, whose genius is inextricably linked to his monumental ego. Since his formative years, Ronaldo cultivated an unshakable belief that he was the greatest, a conviction born from an unparalleled work ethic. This psychological shield initially served him well, allowing him to absorb setbacks and criticism, always rebounding with the conviction that no one was better. However, as the intense rivalry with Lionel Messi became the defining narrative of modern football, Ronaldo's ego became increasingly visible and, tragically, brittle. In a now infamous 2015 interview, when asked if Messi surpassed him in any area, his refusal to concede any ground, stating, "In my mind, I'm better than him," stood in stark contrast to Messi's characteristic silence on the topic. While confidence is necessary, an unchecked ego can be a liability, and for Ronaldo, it was ruinous. His 2018 departure from Real Madrid was fundamentally a demand for greater power, more respect, and an escalated contract, terms Florentino Perez was unwilling to meet. Ronaldo interpreted this refusal as a personal affront, seeking validation at Juventus, a club that would treat him as the undisputed centre of the footballing universe. This need for supremacy surfaced again in 2021 when he publicly undermined Messi's Ballon d'Or victory. His most recent interview, a masterclass in self-sabotage, put his ego on full, devastating display. Now, a true legend will forever be defined by his achievements, yet his insistence on framing his legacy through the prism of his own injured pride risks, tarnishing it forever. To witness him recant his stated biggest dream of winning the World Cup only after Messi achieved it, or to see him display such intense grief over a minor 7-game trophy loss highlights the fragile nature of his self-perception. His image is currently suffering because his ego demands recognition that time, stats, and reality itself can no longer sustain. Shifting focus to the current generation, Vinicius Jr. represents one of the most electric talents in world football. Yet his primary difficulty lies in his uncontrolled emotional temper and tendency to dramatically overreact. The performance data confirms his genius, but his capacity for emotional regulation is a major vulnerability. Vinny Jr. struggles profoundly to manage adverse situations, often escalating minor incidents into dramatic, highly publicized scandals. A prime example is his substitution during an El Clasico. Instead of accepting a poor performance with grace and respecting his manager's decision, he openly berated the coaching staff, even threatening to leave the club. This pattern of lashing out is constant. After Rodrigo won a Ballon d'Or, Vinny Jr.'s reaction was not congratulatory, but a public outburst on social media promising to do 10 times more, a claim that preceded a deeply underwhelming performance the following year. Real Madrid supporters themselves are growing weary of this behavioural cycle. His inability to simply focus on the beautiful game, instead constantly being provoked and drawn into unnecessary confrontations, poses a direct threat to his longevity at the highest level and is a core reason for persistent transfer rumours. The legendary Sergio Ramos, the quintessential captain, defines himself by his dual nature, an unmatched defensive savant and an unparalleled penchant for aggressiveness. For a generation of fans, Ramos is synonymous with defensive toughness, but also with being one of the dirtiest players in history. While a degree of intimidating presence is essential for a top-tier centre-back, Ramos's aggression frequently crossed the threshold of control. Amassing a staggering 29 red cards throughout his career is not an abstract statistic. It is a quantifiable measure of how often his lack of discipline cost Real Madrid crucial games. His career is littered with needless fouls and pointless confrontations that only serve to fuel global animosity toward him. Ultimately, his greatest nemesis was always himself. The same aggression that forged his iconic status simultaneously eroded his reputation, his availability, and his team's success in high-stakes matches. Gareth Bale, a hero of Champions League finals, is a case study in how a player's style can become their own undoing. For Bale, the career-defining problem was injuries. Many point to a perceived lack of commitment or an indifferent attitude. But the true root of his decline lay in an unsustainable, physical playing style. His game was predicated on raw, explosive speed, rapid acceleration, and sudden, intense changes of direction. This relentless, high-strain athletic output placed an enormous and ultimately irreparable burden on his muscular structure, leading to recurring soft tissue injuries. And every time he mounted a comeback, the momentum was instantly shattered by a new setback. While fit, as demonstrated by his breathtaking 2018 Champions League final performance, he was truly unplayable. However, the accumulation of fitness issues transformed him into an unreliable commodity. Managers including Zidane eventually favoured stability over his sporadic genius. The injuries, an issue largely beyond his conscious control, led to fan alienation and subsequently a decline in his mental health and his bond with the club. Jude Bellingham, the latest Galácticos sensation, is now developing his own friction point: arrogance. At just 22, dominating the Bernabeu and the world stage, a measure of self-regard is inevitable. Bellingham's issue is expressed not through off-pitch behaviour, but through on-pitch bravado. It is visible in audacious passes and highly improbable shots attempted purely out of confidence. This arrogance is a classic double-edged sword. On one side, it provides the powerful self-belief required for him to dominate veterans and command the midfield. On the other, it results in unnecessary turnovers and risks, creating internal friction within a squad built on world-class talent, potentially disrupting the team's professional equilibrium in the future. The talented Rodrigo faces the challenge of profound inconsistency. Initially lauded as a more grounded and focused alternative to Vinny Jr., Rodrigo quickly earned hero status with critical goals, such as his Champions League heroics against Manchester City. Yet his primary problem lies in a volatile performance curve. Brilliant, world-class highs are almost invariably followed by frustrating, nearly invisible lows. His inherent inconsistency makes him a statistical risk for any manager. While his 2023-24 season was marked by impressive figures, 51 appearances, 17 goals, 9 assists, his subsequent downturn has been alarming, with significantly reduced output and appearances. This unpredictable output threatens his status at a club like Real Madrid, and the persistent lack of guaranteed starting minutes suggest that a change of scenery might be necessary to stabilise his developmental trajectory. Finally, we address the complex case of Karim Benzema, a footballing legend whose career is permanently scarred by criminal allegations. Beyond his undeniable footballing mastery, his reputation as a human being is severely compromised. The dark reality behind the infamous meme of Benzema 15 stems from a 2014 incident involving a prostitute who was a minor under French law. While he was ultimately cleared because the court could not definitively prove he knew her age, the incident forever damaged his public image. Furthermore, the true reason for his protracted absence from the French national team was another, even darker scandal in 2015. Benzema was implicated in the attempted blackmail of his national teammate, Mathieu Valbuena, over a private tape. Over a private. Though he denied direct wrongdoing, the court convicted him of complicity. Not for perpetrating the blackmail, but for actively encouraging Valbuena to pay the perpetrators instead of reporting them. This action resulted in a 1-year suspended sentence and a fine, and permanently cost him his place in the French squad. Benzema's story is a sobering reminder that a player's immense talent can never fully erase the stain of poor judgment and criminal association. 5.